Hey guys, Tim McCamus back in the shop again. I want to talk to you tonight about some weight bars, weight issue, weight placement, all things to do with weight. You know, we try to build these cars as light as possible so we have some movable weight in the car, and we have a lot of options for that. So it's common for us to get questions during the week on where should I put the weight bars, how many should I put in the car, how much weight does it take to make an effective change on the car, anything to do with that. So I want to talk to you about a couple different options and then some placement stuff, and then we'll get into how much weight affects the performance of the car. So I've got a few pieces laid out here on the table, and I'll go over that stuff first. So this is just a standard 2x2 weight bar here, and this thing is raw. It has a fill plug in the end here, and then it's got some countersunk bushings in it that will use a 1/2-inch cap bolt to fasten to the chassis with a tab similar to this. This is a weld-on tab that we'll use when we're building the car, and we place these all over the car, from the front to the midsection to up on the chassis around the forelink all the way to the tail section. And then we also have these aluminum clamps too, and these are really nice. So, you know, your car is finished and it's powder coated and done, and you go, shit, I need to put some weight right here. Well, we made these clamps, and we have two different sizes. So we have the small version and the large version is what we call them, but they're aluminum. They split in half here, and they've got the same bolt thread pattern, 1/2 inch for that the tabs do. So the smaller one, it's got this kind of a unique shape to the center so that it fits multiple size tubes. This particular one will fit 1.25 and 1 3/8, and then if you go to this one, this will fit 1.5 and 1 5/8. You can put these anywhere in the car. They've got two cap screws here that are holding this half clamp together. We put these 3 threaded holes in the bottom so that you can move some weight around. Let's say you're just going to put a 5-pound puck somewhere. You may want to mount it here, or you may want to use these to double up multiple weight bars on. So these can easily clamp in single, or you can clamp them in tandem. Like if, let's say, you wanted to add this bar to the one of the strut tube supports, you could clamp two of the same size. Let's say that tube was 1 3/8. You'd have two of these smaller ones. You'd clamp that onto the tube, and it'll pinch down tight where it won't move. And then you can position this bar here, or you can offset it. And if you build your own bars, you can actually fit two of these on here. So you can you can double these up. We kind of make it so we use 2x2 and 2x3 tubing for weight bars, and we also use the little round 5-pound pucks that have a hole in the center of them. So that's when you're kind of really getting down to some fine tuning, when you're moving 5 pounds around in the car. So we have these available complete like this, but we also have kit versions of the weight bars. So you can get a raw piece of tube with the caps, the bushings, tabs, bolts, all the stuff in a kit form where you can cut it to your desired length and make up your own weight bar. These are really nice, and so what these are going to do is they're going to fill these with lead shot. So like shots you're going to refill a shotgun shell with, we're just going to pour these full of this. Now, this particular bar here, this thing's going to weigh about 20 pounds when it's full, when it's packed full. So once we fill it, we'll kind of tamp it down a little bit and get the most we can in here and fill it to the top. And that thing's going to weigh about 20. So you know, you can get a 2x3 bar up into the 40-pound range if you have enough room in the car. So depending on how light the car is to start with, maybe what the requirements are for your class. You know, some of these classes are going to have a minimum weight. You may have to add weight to get that to meet that minimum. So you know, you always want to be a little bit over that when you run the car, so that when you come around to the scales, that you're still over that minimum. Some of these guys run it pretty tight. You know, they'll be like 5 pounds over on the scales, so they get it pretty close, because you got to allow for fuel consumption and all that on the track. So obviously you want to run the car as light as possible so it's as quick as it can be. My opinion, you know, placement, you can't ever have too many weight bar tabs or too many places to bolt weight in the car so that you can tune the car properly. We get questioned quite often about, all right, my car's, you know, we might say, okay, well, you know, you need to add a little bit of weight to the front of the car. And the guy's like, well, my car's already, you know, 20 pounds over, and I don't want to add another 20 pounds to the front because now I'm going to be 40 pounds over, and they get all freaked out about this shit. But in my opinion, I would rather run a car heavy that works good than a car that's light that doesn't work so good. So I never did get freaked out because I had to run the car a little over what I wanted it to be. Now, in an ideal world, you're always working at the minimum number and you got 30, 40 pounds you can move around in the car. That doesn't happen all the time. So maybe your car is, when you're ready, race ready, maybe you're 30 pounds over, 40 pounds overweight, but you need to move 20 pounds to the front, or you need to add 20 to the front. You don't have any weight bars in the car, you're already overweight, and the car needs a little weight on the front. Well, in my opinion, it's stupid not to put the weight on there. Why would you want to sacrifice the effective quality of the run of the car versus not having a little extra weight on there? It doesn't matter. If the car works good, it's going to be quicker than if it's not working properly. So if your thing goes out there, hikes the front end up and really could use a little weight on it, and you elect not to do that because you're freaked out about 20 pounds, it's your loss. You're not gonna run the optimum performance out of that chassis. So that's just the way I think about it. I never did get, we got guys that get all freaked out over that they just won't do it. So they try to start changing around stuff on the car. If you're good with the chassis settings and shock adjustments, you can tune quite a bit of that out of there. But, guys that run NHRA Pro Stock, they don't move weight around in the car because that's all they got to do. They know that that's an effective part of tuning the chassis. That's why they do it. You talk to somebody like Jason Lyon, he's going to say, yeah, they move 5 pounds around to make the car work better. 5 pounds, that's not hardly much to move in the car. And they'll see a performance change in that because they've got the car set up so close. And these are all things that are done, as the day progresses. The track's never the same at noon as it is at 8 o'clock at night. Unfortunately, you can't always run on a 85-degree racetrack with the sun out. As the temperatures change and the conditions of the track prep change throughout the day, 2 o'clock might be slimy and nasty, but then you go into E1 at 8 o'clock that night. Now the sun's down, it's cooler, that track's all of a sudden tightened up. Those guys are out there gluing it and dragging it and making it tight. Well, whole different racetrack where you might need 20-pound weight bar on the front. You might say, hey, this track's tightening up, I need to throw 20 on the front, and it's going to make the car work better than it would if I left it off. Because you go out there without it, it might get the front end up, get on the wheelie bars, unload the back tires, you waste a run when a little bit of weight could have saved your ass. Do what you want, but I don't get freaked out over that. Whatever it takes to run the car the best is what I want to do. I'm not going to sit there and get all anal over a little bit of extra weight on the car because I want it to perform the best. So if you got this thing really close, 5 pounds moving around in the car, you can see it if you're really good. Honestly, guys, you ain't gonna get the shit that close, okay? You're gonna need to, you're gonna see 20 pounds make a difference. And if you've got weight in the car, you gotta remember that if it's in the back, so let's say you've got a weight bar in the back, you got nothing up front. Well, if you got a 20-pound weight bar in the back and you take that off and move it up front, that's not like adding 20 pounds to the front. You've now reduced the back by 20 and you've added 20 to the front. That's a whole lot bigger change than having no weight bars on the car and adding a 20-pound weight bar to the left front corner. So think about that. I've just taken some weight off, which is a change because you've got it, normally it'll be back on the tail section, so it's hanging back there off the back of the car behind the rear end housing, and now you've taken that off and moved it to the front. Well, that's a big move. So you need to think about that you're reducing it in one area and adding it to another. If you got to add weight just to bulk the car up, let's say that's one question we get all the time. I'm running this new class and I've got to add 100 pounds to my car to make it meet the minimum. Okay, but my chassis is working good and I'm happy with the performance. In that case, what we always suggest is try to proportion the weight evenly across the car, not just at the front and the back, but in the center too. So don't just say, okay, I had 100, I'm going to put 50 on the front, 50 on the back, because those are leveraged out there at pretty far points. Spread it out in the car. Put some bars in the center of the car by the transmission. Put a couple by the forelink. Put some up on the strut. Put some at the back. So spread it out evenly, and you may have to reset your ride height if you're putting 100 pounds in. Get your ride height set back right. That chassis will react very similar to the way it was before when it was balanced before you put the weight in. That's just, to me, is just common sense. That's how you distribute it. And if you need to add weight, but the thing's been a little light on the front end, think about how the car's been acting. Hey, this thing really could stand a little bit of weight at the front, and I got to put some weight on it anyway. Let me cheat a little bit more to the front than evenly out from front to back on the chassis. You might say, okay, well, I'm going to put a little extra up front, spread it out in the middle, put a little bit less on the back. Weight in these cars is really common sense, you know. And if it's out there and it's got the front end up too far, 20 pounds will make a difference on that. I mean, if the chassis is pretty close, but it's just getting the front end a little light and it's not setting the front wheels down till, you know, 300 feet out, it's kind of hard to drive. 20 pounds hanging out there as far as you can on the front, and 20 pounds on the front of the car by the side of the engine, let's say on the frame rail beside the oil pan, is a lot less effective than that 20 pounds hanging out there by the fuel cell. Okay, so the farther you can get it out there, the more effective that weight's going to be. So if you can get it as far forward in the car, that same weight will do more than it will back by the engine. So that's a few tips that I got for weight. Look at the stuff we got on the site. If you still have questions about it, give our guys a call and we'll walk you through it. Thanks for watching.